podcast Repousser les limites. Votre animateur, JF Dussault, s'entretiendra avec des athlètes d'endurance et collaborateurs qui gravitent autour de la course en sentier et bien plus encore. Abonnez-vous, partagez l'épisode et bonne écoute.
Bienvenue à Repousser les limites. This week is a very special episode. I'm meeting the first woman that finished the Barkley Marathon. That's an honor to receive her on my podcast. So, Jasmin Paris, thank you so much to accept the invitation, and congratulations again for the Barkley.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, how proud of you so a few months later of this?
Yeah, I still feel really happy and proud when I think back to it. I obviously talked about it quite a lot in kind of media interviews and things since, but yeah, when I kind of go back into really what it meant for me, and yeah, that feeling is still there. That kind of, yeah, that joy of the moment is still there.
So, do you feel recovery good now, or?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah, physically,
Yeah.
I feel okay. I've been taking it pretty easy in terms of kind of yeah, in terms of training and things. I've not really been training much, just kind of going out and seeing what I want to do without a watch sort of thing. But I think I could have done with a little bit more sleep, maybe. That's the one thing I could do with it. It's difficult to fit it in alongside family and work and doing media things, but it's getting better. It's all settling down a bit.
Okay, now great. So, do you have an idea how it's so nice for the women trail running community? What it represent, your accomplishment? I bet you have a lot of women that talk to you about this, but that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's really kind of special for me to be able to, I guess. I've had a lot of messages saying I've inspired people, and that for me is like is really wonderful. I feel extremely privileged to be in a situation where I can inspire people, and I guess that with that comes a certain responsibility, I guess, to try and kind of spread that message, or do the publicity media stuff to kind of, as I say, touch people, and if that's a position that I'm in, as I say, to kind of be able to share that message. I feel very inspired by people's stories when they write to me and tell me that they've, that it's changed something for them. That for me is hugely inspiring, especially when it's young girls, at school children have written to me, and I find that incredibly emotional and inspiring as well. So yeah, I feel very lucky to be in this position, and kind of, yeah, I hope that I can continue to live up to those expectations.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was so nice to follow you, and the attention here in Canada. Every people was so exciting. Just when you enter in the fifth loop was so amazing, and so congratulations again. So how did the sport happen in your life?
Sorry, how did what sort?
How did you start activity of sport in your life? How
I
does it
guess,
start?
yeah. I mean, I guess I've always been kind of active. I didn't do athletics at school or anything like that, but as a child, uh, I spent a lot of time outside with my brother and my mum, especially, and my parents took us on kind of hiking trips, and we wild camped and hiked across the mountains. I did that from a really early age, so I think that connection to nature and the outdoors, and just being active in the outdoors was always there. And when I was a teenager, I did swimming at school, and I did a lot of horse riding as well. So I spent all my kind of weekends and evenings in the stables, at the stables when I was a kind of teenager. And it was when I went to university, I started doing a lot of kind of hiking with the open air club at university and going away every weekend in the hills. But it wasn't really till I left university that I became a runner. And it was just a natural progression really from being from hiking in the hills to sort of running through the hills. And it meant that I could get into the hills every day, before work. And I guess I just discovered how much I loved doing that, how much I loved kind of being free in the mountains all the, every day, alongside kind of a normal career. So yeah, I guess I've always been active, but it wasn't really till I kind of was an adult that I became a runner as such.
Okay, fine. So have you run road marathons too?
No, I've never run a road marathon. No, I did
No.
get to start. I did the start for the elite ladies race at this year's London Marathon, and I think people were a bit surprised that I'd never run a road marathon myself. And I think I probably will have a place if I want it next year to run the London Marathon. I might give it a go just because it'd be interesting to see what I could do if I train and yeah. But I generally just run on the roads to get to the hills. I don't, it's just to make my way there to the hills, I guess. Not specifically for the road running itself.
Okay. So you're more enjoyed by the nature and the hiking first before introducing trail running.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's just, yeah, again, a natural progression, yeah. Moving faster through that kind of wild terrain that I like.
Okay. So how did you heard about the Barkley Marathon?
I honestly can't even say when I first heard about it. It was sometime, um, yeah, I do. It's one of those things that's almost legendary if you're a runner,
Yeah.
especially a kind of trail runner or ultra distance runner. So I knew about it for quite a long time, but in terms of when I was actually first attracted by it, I guess. So I first heard about it specifically in relation to me after the spine race, when people started asking me whether I would be interested in trying this race. I think somebody had asked Lars in an interview about me going, and he seemed keen for me to try. And so the people started asking me in interviews whether I would whether I would have a go at the Barkley. And at first I sort of said I wasn't very interested because the idea of running laps in a forest on the same course didn't really appeal to me, and it didn't look like particularly kind of awe-inspiring mountains or kind of countryside either. But then this kind of idea, I guess, grew on me gradually, and it's that question of something that's really hard, and the likelihood is, I guess, on statistically speaking, is that this is not going to be possible. But clearly, some people have managed it. So it's this kind of tantalizing question of something that's nearly impossible, but not quite. And then, obviously, the question you ask yourself is, well, could I do it? Then, if it's just on the kind of verge of impossible, but not quite, could I manage to do it? And I think that just becomes, yeah, it becomes something that sort of eats away at this little question. And then suddenly at some point, I guess, when my son was about 9 months old, I suddenly knew that I wanted to try. I wanted to go out there and try. So when he was, I guess, coming up for 2 was my first attempt at Barkley. And I think I came away from that thinking that was really hard. Um, it's a really big challenge, but I do think it's possible for a woman to do that, and I think it's possible for me to do that. And then after that, I guess it was to some extent an obsession for the next 2 years until I kind of had my successful attempt. I think it almost has to become a bit of an obsession for you to finish that race. And it sort of becomes yeah, molds itself into every aspect of your life, this idea of trying to finish it.
Yeah, it's one word I heard a lot of people that have success at Barkley, obsession about the things and to how to manage the navigation. Did you
Yeah.
were good before navigation?
I mean, I've done like in terms of kind of my background, I think I'm pretty well suited for an event like Barkley. So I'm a fell runner by, my background is fell running, not trail running. Fell runners spend a lot of time racing across like open hillsides and moorland without paths. That's the history of the sport. In Whereas trail running generally is on trails, isn't it, and often marked routes, whereas fell running's not like that. Often you can choose your own way between checkpoints, and you're running off trail. So that experience, have quite a lot of experience in that aspect. And I've done quite a few of these sort of mountain marathons where you navigate your way. You get given a map at the start of the day, and you have to find your way between certain points, and the next day you do the same, carrying all your kit. So that's all kind of good training for Barkley. I don't think I'm certainly not the world's best navigator by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not an orienteer. I can't navigate like they do on the kind of fly. But then again, Barkley's not quite that well suited to that sort of navigation either, because the map's not very good. So it's kind of a combination of being reasonably good at using a compass and looking at the lie of the land and things, but also being able to pick up on things as you go around, you know, like learning your way around based on cues that you get and kind of, yeah, clues that you see beside you as you run. So you might spot some feature, be it a rock or a broken tree or a rusty barrel or something like that, and that tells you when you need to, you know, that's your signal to turn off into the undergrowth at that point. Those sorts of clues are something that you just have to kind of learn as you go there. You can't, it's not the sort of detail that you can give someone beforehand, and you wouldn't want to anyway. It's part of the secret and the mystery of the race. But I guess that's the sort of thing you have to be quite quick at learning as you go around, and you have to be able to kind of assimilate that information for future attempts, if you want to go back and actually finish it.
Yeah. So is that your third attempt? I think so.
Yeah. I finished on my third attempt. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you have made fun run before.
Yeah, I did a fun run both times before. Yeah, my first attempt and my second attempt. My first attempt, it took me just under 40 hours, which is the cutoff for a fun run. And the second time I did it just under 36. So I got to go out for a fourth loop. But obviously didn't finish the fourth loop in time. I did actually finish 4 loops. I did actually complete 4 loops last year, but I just didn't do it in time. So officially I only have a fun run. But I did run the full 4 loops, including collecting all the pages. It just accredited only with 3, because only 3 were within time.
Okay. So did it helps you a lot this year, your experience before?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I ran quite a lot of those 7 times around the course. Those in the first 2 years, as I say, I went around the course in total 7 loops, and I spent quite a lot of that time. Probably 4 of those were completely on my own. So, just the experience that you have of navigating your way through that landscape, it's a huge bonus. All the mistakes I made, to be honest, are a huge bonus, because every time you make a mistake, it really, and you know, it really sort of lodges itself in your memory, so that next time when you're about to make that mistake, you recognize it early and you correct it before it becomes a catastrophic error that costs you too much time. Because even the very best navigators at Barkley make mistakes. It's just a case of how quickly they correct them, like how quickly they recognize they're making a mistake and correct them. Like I honestly tell you that, you know, John and Jared, and they all make mistakes as well. It's just they're good at picking up on it really quickly and making it right. So I think that really helped me this year, going, and it also gave me confidence, you know, to kind of just try and, in a way, I was just trying to hang on the first few loops and go as quickly as I could with a group of people near the front. And the knowledge that when it got to the later loops, I'd be able to find my way around on my own. I just needed to have enough time to complete the last 2 loops, if you see what I mean. So I wanted to kind of get as much time in the bank as I could in the first few loops, safe in the knowledge that I would be able to find my way around later on my own. I didn't need to be learning that as I went this year. I was confident in what I knew from previous years.
Okay. So have you sleep this year when you run the Barkley?
I
No,
think there's really little time to sleep on the race anymore. So
yeah.
I sort of said, when I came in from loop 4, I said I'm having 3 minutes of power nap. So there's some pictures of me asleep in the chair, or theoretically asleep. I just basically closed my eyes. I just felt really sick, so I was trying to work out how to make that feeling go away and kind of recover a bit. Yeah, so I closed my eyes for 3 minutes, but there's limited. This is such a tight margin on finishing now with time wise that
Yeah.
it's almost impossible to have a proper sleep, really.
So have you see a progression of the course way more harder this year?
Um, I mean, it was a little bit different this year. I'd argue it was a bit better in the sense it was kind of a bit more of a kind of logical loop. It's kind of been kind of proofed against people not doing the right thing, I guess. I think in overall, I'd say it was a little bit harder, but it certainly I don't think it was easier. There was kind of a new section that was really involved a lot of brambles. That was pretty unpleasant, the new section this year. So I certainly wouldn't say it was easier than it has been in the past. I think the reason that people finished this year was more a combination of the weather, the people that were there, and the fact that people worked together. So it was kind of those things that meant that people finished this year, I think, rather than other years.
Yeah, it was a very hot edition this year, I think so.
It was a very, sorry, what?
A very hot edition.
Hard, did
Yeah,
you say?
yeah.
Yeah, as I say, I think that certainly, yeah, I think Barkley's always hard. But I think, yeah, certainly the kind of Brambly section, the new kind of section, which everybody talks about, being pretty unpleasant in terms of briar scratches was, yeah, and there was a lot of new kind of book locations this year as well. A lot of the books were in slightly different places, so that takes time when you're trying to find the book, especially when it's multiple books that are hidden in new locations.
Okay. So what did looks your training weeks to prepare for an event like this?
So I guess I'm always running on the hills anyway. By the things that kind of changed, whether I was doing, I certainly increased the mileage, but my top mileage was never really more than about 90 miles of running per week. But I did quite a lot of climbing, so between 11 and 12,000 meters of climbing in a week. And for me, kind of, with a family and a full-time job, that's quite a lot to try and squeeze into the week.
Yeah.
So a lot of that to just try and get a lot of ascent in the kind of training windows that I had. I would kind of be choosing quite a steep hill off trail and just running up and down it to get the maximum climb I could. So that was kind of the major thing. I also did some, quite a few double sessions of doing maybe a stair climber session in the evening in the gym. On top of my morning training session out on the hills, and then quite a lot of strength sessions, and they certainly helped. They like really, really helped in terms of I've got a chronic problem with my left knee, but just strengthening up my leg around that really made a big difference for Barkley. So that was kind of a key thing. I think it was just the strength sessions with weights that I was doing.
Okay, okay. So did you have a coach that follow you or you are training by yourself?
Yeah, I'm coached by Damien Hall, who was also at Barkley.
Okay.
But he's, Damien's a friend. He coaches me like partly because I like to just have so little time. I don't like to think about having to make any sort of plan. I just go out and do what's kind of recommended. But he's also very flexible. He knows that I have a family and he's more of a friend. Yeah, it just helps me to be accountable to somebody and to have someone to, I guess, guide me a little bit in terms of what will help me um help me improve rather than just doing, otherwise I would just run the kind of same easy level all the time. I know I wouldn't put in any kind of speed work or any kind of intensity sessions if I was just choosing my own plan. So it's helpful for me in that way to have a coach.
Okay, okay. So what did looks your nutrition strategy for event like this?
I think the key thing is for me is to try and eat normal food for as long as I can. So I don't really eat gels. If I can try and they never really work very well for my kind of for my guts, for my insides. So I would just, I was eating at the kind of interluval periods when you have in camp and you can kind of get support, then I was eating either pasta or porridge or rice pudding. Bananas work really well there. And I was drinking like tea or coffee or Coca-Cola. And when I was out on the trail, I had like sandwiches, I had pizza, I had like omelette, kind of frittata. I had like homemade flapjack, trail mix, add some sweets. So it's no kind of groundbreaking secret nutrition strategy. I did struggle a bit with food this year actually. And whether that was just because I was pushing a bit harder or just because, there's times when it's easier to eat and there's times when it's harder, is not always so. But this year that was something I really struggled with, was kind of eating in the later stages of the race.
Okay, okay. Did you have a struggle with cramps? But I talked with Max Godin, said, "Oof, was so hard because it was warm weather this year."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't actually have problem with cramp at all, really. I don't think.
no.
Um, no, but yeah, I don't think I actually had any problems with cramp specifically.
Okay, okay, cool. So did you have the electrolyte with you?
I didn't, and I actually thought it would have been. I had packed it. I had it in the kit, back at camp. And then I think at one point I asked for some like salt tablets, electrolytes, and Conrad, my crew, couldn't find them, so I didn't have any.
Okay.
And one point, Ihor offered me some as well when we were out on the trail. And afterwards I regretted not taking some from him, but at the time I didn't want any.
Okay. So, what people was your crew?
Of my husband, Conrad, he
Oh, okay,
screwed
okay.
me, he screwed me the other times I've been there as well. So I think he's probably glad that I finally managed to do it, so we can do something else in kind of March time next year than go to back to Barkley again. So he's probably glad that we finally managed to get it done. But yeah, he's fantastic crew because he knows me inside out and he knows what I need. He's a runner as well, so he gets it, and he doesn't faff around and he's just really to the point and good at getting things done and organized, and just I guess the best person to send me back out there, kind of to give me a boost and a hug, but then send me back out into the forest. So I was really lucky to have him there supporting me.
Okay, that was not the first time that was crewing for you.
Oh no, he's as I say, he's been to every Barkley with me.
Okay. Okay. Nice. What would you recommend for a woman that want to attempt the Barkley?
I guess, I mean, probably to be honest, then the same as a man that wants to attempt it. But eh, if you want it, then it's definitely possible. I'd say you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to be prepared, I think, to fail. Like, and that applies to a man as well. You have to be prepared to fail and go back and try again, because it's not the sort of thing that's easy to do first time round. I think you have to learn from the mistakes you make, and just kind of store that information and go back out there with all the new skills that you have, and mainly I think you've got to be willing to work hard for it. But yeah, the key thing I think is to believe it is possible, and hopefully I've shown other women that it is possible for it to happen. It's just that element of self belief, and the work you have to put in beforehand to be ready to achieve it.
Okay, nice. Okay, so do you think you would attempt Barkley in the future?
Probably not. I don't know. I'll never say never, but it was a huge kind of, as I say, a bit of an obsession. But the aim for me was to just get it done, like to prove that I could do it. I've proven that I could do it to myself and to the rest of the world and to everybody that doubted a woman was capable of it. I've proven it. And I don't feel like a strong need to go back. I feel like it's a chapter of my life that's done and ticked. And for the last 3 years, that's been a huge kind of part of my year in terms of training and recovery. It's probably taken 6 months out of my year for the last 3 years. And I'm ready to move on to other challenges and kind of excited by other things. I also, I'm trying not to fly to races nowadays because of, the climate crisis, and I guess I'm personally trying to race closer to home and to race things that I can travel to by train, and train, land and sea rather than flying. So for me, traveling to Barkley for the last 3 years was a bit of a dilemma environmentally. So I'm kind of glad that I don't have to face that challenge again and that dilemma again, and I'm happy to move on.
Okay, okay. Do you have something else on your bucket list you want to attempt?
I mean, there's loads of things I would like to, there's loads of kind of long distance trails that I would like to, attempt. And you kind of look at the US and you think about things like the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail. And, there's loads of these kind of long distance things in the Scotland, doing all the Munros, which are, the big Scottish mountains here. I would, like to do that sort of thing. But these are all kind of pretty big adventures that are probably going to take you away from family for weeks. And that's hard for me to kind of grapple with. The next big adventure that I've got planned is the Tour de Géant, which is like 330-kilometer race, starting from Courmayeur, and it's a big loop around the Aosta Valley. I think it's about 24,000 meters of ascent. So that's my kind of next big challenge. And yeah, some of the listeners probably know that race.
Yeah.
That's kind of a non-stop race with not that much sleep again. And I think Damien and John Kelly will both be there this year as well. So it'll be kind of fun to have a bit of a Barkley reunion out there.
Yeah, so you are registered for this year?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. So have you started training back a little?
Today, this is my first week training again.
Oh, okay, okay.
I've done a few big days, but they've been kind of a bit sort of just thrown in there with not much preparation in the last couple of months. So, but today's my first, like, yeah, today marks the start of my being back in training with a proper plan and things. So I've got the essentially 3 months to get ready.
Okay. Is that your first 200-mile races?
No, because I ran the spine race, which was 268 miles.
Okay,
And so
okay.
had significantly less climbing than the Tour de Géant. But it's the same sort of thing, like not very much sleep because you obviously kind of not wanting to let your competitors pass you while you sleep. So similar
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of dynamic.
And now you know that you can do long trip without sleeping too.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I say, I knew that from before when I ran the spine race, but yeah, certainly Barkley, I managed it for I didn't even get so many problems this year with hallucinations and things at Barkley. I just think I had so much adrenaline in the system and I was so desperate to get it done that it sort of kept me awake.
Yeah.
I didn't struggle so much with the sleep aspect.
Okay. So how was the feeling to be on the fifth loop at the Barkley?
I mean, I guess when I set off, I kind of stumbled out of from away from the gate, and I still felt pretty terrible at that point. But I think once I sort of got going, I was just hugely focused on getting to the finish. And in some ways, the last loop was kind of fun because I was you're ticking off every summit for the last time, and as I made my way through that final loop, um I just, I guess I got this massive wave of adrenaline and I really started sort of running for the finish with the finish in mind. And with probably 6 hours to go, I realized that it was going to be really tight, but that it was possible. The second half of the loop in the clockwise direction is easier navigationally. So at that point, I was less worried about making an extreme error, and it was just down to how fast I could move. And yeah, it was exciting. I mean, in some ways, kind of I guess because I had so much adrenaline and because I was so kind of excited about the idea of finishing, the pain and things that I was feeling, I could kind of put it to one side. It was like I just put it in like a boxed it away, and I was just focusing on trying to on every split. I was thinking about every split, and I was really racing from about 6 hours out. So it was pretty exciting. I would say it was like, overall like the last loop was was kind of fun in a kind of oddly masochistic way until the final sort of 8 minutes, and that wasn't very pleasant. Kind of when I realized how close it was going to be and that I might not make it to the gate in time, that final sort of kilometer maybe, that was pretty unpleasant. But until that point, it was it was almost in a slightly twisted way. It was almost fun, that fifth loop.
Nice. So congratulations again, because you inspire so much women to go further, to repush the limit. That's amazing.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks.
And good luck at the Tour de Géant.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So, do you have a sleep strategy, or are you trying to go further you can? And
I think I'll just try, and for that, I'll definitely run through the first night without sleeping,
yeah, yeah,
and then I think we've seen more and more that people can get away with quite little amounts of sleep. I'm certainly my experience is that you can have like a 5 minute power nap and it keeps you going for quite a long time. So I think my strategy will be to try and keep sleeps pretty short, and if possible, not sleep in the early stages of the race at all, because if you can get further up the field, it means that anywhere that you sleep will be more quiet. So therefore the time you spend there will be better rest. Because what you don't want to do is be kind of with a lot of other people. If you lie down then and then you're kind of kept awake anyway, then it's completely pointless rest, if you see what I mean, because you're not really resting. So yeah, trying to get up near the front, getting further on in the field, and then only sleeping when I really need to sleep, and trying to keep it minimal. But I think that's probably everybody's strategy, really.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll look forward for you at the Tour des Géants. And thanks a lot for your time, but thanks a lot for inspiration for all the women around the world. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Okay. Have a nice
Okay.
day. Bye.
Thanks, you too.